Hare Krishna. Welcome to Transcendental Thursday Association on Situationship. The Gen Zs and millennials was talking about it. When I heard the term for the first time, ye kya hai? Then I started looking in the internet for the word, and it has dawned towards to talk about this particular topic in this particular session. Well, not deep, superficially on top of it, and the spiritual perspective, how to not to be into it, and if you are into it, how to get out of it. So before we start, let us hope to get the blessings of the Almighty and the spiritual master to go through this and sail through this and reach the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we go. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Being a 90s kid, to understand the nuances, feelings, buzzwords, jargons of the current generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs, it's quite difficult for me. But nevertheless, I try to ponder upon and what's happening in the current generation. And this is the burst which is happening. Of course, this is not a new thing. It's happening since a couple of years. During my college days in Bangalore, it was a buzzword like live-in relationship or one-night stands. So now this has come to a new terminology. Maybe it's there in the internet since last 1 year. Situationship, where you are into a relationship but you are not committed. You are not want to be committed, but you want a gratification of being with the partner. Maybe friends with benefits, with only benefits, minus emotions, or emotions or minus physical intimacy. The things are very, very weird and complex. Romantic, undefined relationship. इस रिश्ते का मतलब क्या है? ये रिश्ता क्या कहलाता है? इस रिश्ते का मतलब ही है मतलब. समझ रहे हो? So whole concept is to not to have feelings. Or even if you have feelings, not to have intimacy. If you have intimacy, not to have feelings. And the situations are quite perturbing and disturbing. And that has led to a lot of bankruptcy and cringeworthy content for the youngsters. They're going through what they're going through is very painful. The situation plus relationship, the infidelity which comes into mind, it really exists. The love and the tender care, love, what you call as TLC, they look for and they don't get in, and there's a frustration and they get ditched and cheated. And if it is still in the relationship, when one gets upset and the other one goes through a court that I was abused, I was raped, or if they succeed to go through the relationship and finally end up in happy ending of getting into married life, eventually they are still into a situationship. They don't want to continue with the relationship, but still want to hang around, and still there is a problem. And when the problem rises, Article 498A is used. So the things go in circles, and for either other gender or male or female, it's all the same. It's frustration, pain, disappointments written all around. But still they hopelessly fall for it and go around and make their life miserable. In other words, situationship is, in other words, animalism in its crude form. Animalism in its crude form. For those who don't know about it, there's a short which I've found out. The other one, I'll just play that short, watch this short, and let us come back and discuss it after that. Here we go.
Situationship is a combination of two words.
Please explain situationship to me. I'm going to end with a definition of what a situationship is because I had no idea this was a thing.
Well, situationship is a combination of two words, a situation and a relationship. It's often the case where there are two people and one person knows that they want to be in a relationship or they want more than the sexual and emotional intimacy that is offered, and the other person doesn't. Sometimes this is conscious and sometimes this is subconscious. When it is not in the awareness of the relationship, they get into a toxic cycle of being okay with the situation, not knowing how to get out of it, but they just know how to be in it. When it is very conscious, it leads oftentimes to an end after a lot of negotiation, like, are you going to be with me, are you not going to be with me? And the person on the other end will be like, but I'm going with the flow. You know,
The shortest video I can get on situationship. Both are in it. Someone wants to get out. Someone wants to get out because there's no maza in it. As after some time, someone's want to be in it. There's maza, but I still want to go with the flow. This is what the skin disease was all about. Skin disease. You gratify my senses, I gratify your senses. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. As long as there's a sense of pleasure, either in relationship, either in feelings, either in the sensual terminology, we are there together. Once not there, we break up. It's one said God. Just like the classical case, most of you would have seen that movie, Kabir Singh. Kabir Singh was in a relationship that didn't work out. They broke up. Preeti got married. He was a good doctor, was pursuing good, but he was in complete depression, consuming alcohol. The modern version of Devdas. Then Jia Sharma, someone like that, they came into her life, the heroine who was supposed to be taken care because he's orthopedician. And then they had feelings for each other. But he made it very clear that I don't want to be with all this commitment and marriage and having feelings for each other. I'm here it for raw. Let's keep it raw. That's what the buzzword of 2017, 2018. But later on, when they spent time together, she had feelings. She wanted to be committed. She wanted to get into married life. She wanted to have a long life partner with him. But he was furious. He didn't want to be. So this is by and large, to make in simple words, that one. Even in even the Vedic literatures, there's a case of Urvashi and Puranjana. So they were together. They had some conditions. When the conditions were met, as long as the conditions are met, the Urvashi agreed to be with Puranjana. When the conditions were broken, she decided to leave. Of course, that's a different topic altogether, somewhere in different terminologies or different era of the future. I would like to share that story. But by and large, it boils down to the one particular verse of Bhagavad Gita, which says, Dhyayate Vishyan Pumsa, Sangaste Supajayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kamat Krodho Bijayate. 2.62, if I trust my memory. Yes. When I'm contemplating on the sense object, whether the male or the female or any person of any kind of orientation or gender, when you contemplate, there's a kind of attachment. There's a kind of infatuation. There's a kind of feeling for it. Because when that contemplation happens, because of those feelings, you develop attachment. You want to be with that person, either for feelings, either for emotion, either for TLC, either for love bombing. Something you love bombing is some word which I recently added to my vocabulary, where you shower all the care and attention with your words, with your deeds, with your action, with your money, with your body, with your physics, with your emotion onto that person, and he feels wow. And after that, the emotion that it's not there, bomb exploded, ho gaya, khatam, next, move on. So that attachment will lead to lust. And Krishna in the Gita elsewhere says, lust, anger, and greed are three doors which lead to hell. And lust, irrespective of your capacity to satisfy and gratify to the fullest extent, it can never be satiated. Intelligent men in the past and women have understood this and have treaded the path of the lust very carefully or cautiously in the sacred institution of marriage. Of course, I'll come back to that aspect of marriage, how it plays a vital role, and how there's a shortcomings and lacuna in that institution also. Coming back to the message which Krishna says in the Gita, when the attachment turns to lust, lust is not satisfied. It can never be. Take it in writing. It can never be. You try different people, you try in different position, you try in different places, at come what may, either it is gross sexual pleasure or the having the power position, or to have a gadget of your liking, or your desires in whatever perverted or straight ways, that can never be satisfied as long as it is on the bodily plane. Because initially, as I said in the last session, you can find the link upstairs, the secret of happiness, the pleasure in the beginning is like nectar. That is the nature of material happiness. Nectar in the beginning. Later on, it becomes poisonous. On the contrary, the spiritual happiness apparently seems to be poison in the beginning, but later on, it becomes nectar. So, scriptures guide. Krishna helps us to tread this path of spiritual happiness to get that unlimited happiness which the soul, as individuals, we are hankering for. That is our make. That is our design. But unfortunately, forgetting this understanding that I am soul, acting on the bodily platform is helping me go down the drain into the whirlpool of gratification and sucking my soul and going to the different species of life, traversing into multiple 84 lakh species, getting troubled with 4 different difficulties of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Yes, coming back to the lust. The first lust, as I said, never can be satiated, not satisfied. Many men in the past have tried their best with best of the resources, both in the ancient history or in the current history, but are never successful. That's in writing. You want to try all the best, but better not to try, or even if you try, you will come to the same conclusion. So that's why intelligent people, that's called first class intelligence. He hears from the right source and abstains from it. Second class intelligent, he hears from the right source, but still does it and gets the experience of the doing and then refrains from it. It's called second class intelligent. And the third class intelligent, majority of us would hear it from a right source, who have the experience of getting beaten up or have the worst of experience. I've seen others also getting through the experience. After ourselves getting through the experience, still are hopelessly behind this pleasure and go again and again, repeat again and again. In other words, in scriptural terms, punahascha charvita charvanana. It is like chewing the chewed. I just want to narrate a small real life instance, because I interact with a lot of youngsters, especially boys from the age of 18 to 24. I come across this true interesting stories, because that's why in this the maybe villain or the other would be a female, but vice versa, if would have interviewed or had a experience of dealing with the women, we would have come across cases where boy is a villain or a boy is a enemy in that case. So just to be safe and just to be gender neutral, I'm giving this experience because I happen to go through this experience with one of our known personality. I would share 3 stories per se, in keeping it short. So this boy was in love with the girl, in whatever terminologies you call it as, and wanted to please her to the best of possibilities, having his limited resources. So he tried his best and was doing so successfully, but to maintain that, he was having cash crunch. So he begged, he borrowed, and even he stole to make sure that the pampering continues in the form of gifts, in the form of movies, in the form of hotels, in the form of food, and so much so that it came to a certain extent that he's decided to just please her beloved. It may be vice versa also. These days it's possible. He went on to, he couldn't afford, he was beaten red, blue and white by his friends who had paid him money but was not able to return it back. Even then he continued to beg money from his other friends. taking money from this person to give it to the other person, and vice versa. And so much so it came to a stage where he couldn't get money. He started selling his blood. So once in 6 months they recommend, but even before that 6 months happens, he started doing that. And so much so that it's a height of craziness. प्यार अंधा होता है बोलते हैं ना. It's not only andha, it's not only blind, it's deaf and dumb. That's what love means, in other words. Coming back, he happened to subject himself to the trials of medication in a pharmaceutical company for some 28,000, 30,000 for a trial, where he became a guinea pig in the hands of the pharmaceutical company for few thousands of rupees, so that money can be used for pampering her, because he loved her like anything. And eventually he called me up, he narrated all this thing, was profusely crying like a baby. And you know what had happened? She had ditched him. Another case who was known to us, chanting, reading, and this is not in again a situationship. He wants to come out, but it's not come out. He's hoping against hope that no, she'll come back, she'll get me back, and I'll have that attention and love. The red flags were ignored. So that's very important to know, that those who are already into it, but I had to use all these words, but nevertheless, better not to get into it. And even if you get into it, understand those nuances, and if possible, come out. Of course, it's not at all possible unless you get a higher hand or the blessings of the Lord, or you are smart enough to come out. This is another case in the marriage. Brought up in a Krishna consciousness atmosphere, chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 relative principles, got married. But somehow the other, it was an arranged marriage. The girl was initially, before the marriage, she agreed to all the his practices, his belief system, his respect for Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, and spiritual practices. But later on, after the marriage, that was not the case, and she had her own intentions. So when her intention, her mood and gratification was not fulfilled, because as Krishna conscious devotees, you have certain values and systems, but the other partner was not agreeing to those principles which the boy was brought up, and he was abused. He was gone through violence, physical abuse, wife beating the husband, and whatnot, and the classical example of 498A being abused. So this is, I watched few videos on how 498A got abused. Husband 4 days into marriage, committing suicide, saying in the video that कुछ laws मर्दों के लिए भी आदमियों के लिए भी बना लीजिए. Of course, in 80s when the dowry thing was at peak, and women had to go through this, law was made by the lawmakers, but over a period of time, and there's a movie also made how women and their family members abuse it. Of course, like that, he wants to get out now, he has to pay the heavy price. The lawyer, 5 years goes, men are by default found guilty in this case, because the case treats it like that. When you are complained against it, FIRs, you are put behind bars, your parents are or elderly parents are put behind bars, and there's a exchange, the law takes its own course. And even today in a middle class family, to have a divorce or to have a court case, to go to the police station, it's a big stigma or a taboo, and people don't want to go through this thing. Again, there's a dealing, you pay this much, I'll remove the case, and the out of court settlement. He had to sell his property, sell his house, pay some lakhs of rupees. Another classical case, he's from one of the southern state, and he was in relation with 7 years. One day he accidentally spurred out what his background life was. He was into some other relationship, and then that instigated her to share her relationship. But still they were in good relationship. But past is past. But things turned sour when she got to a good government job. She moved out of the city to another city. It was a long distance relationship. There she found some other person liking, and there was a breakup. And he called me recently, and he's weeping, crying, yelling. He was heartbroken, and 7 years into relationship, he had invested faith and love and care, all broken. And he was narrating what and all he had done to take care of her, the job, the preparations, the household cleaning, you name it, he had done it all. But at the end of the day, it was heartbreaking. Whether it's from the boy side or the female side, it comes down to this bitter experiences. People can't get out of it or love to get inside. That's what material happiness, material pleasure. Initially, it's like a kick. It's like a nectar. Maza aa raha hai. Everyone is doing. Let me do it. है ना? Friends with benefits, live in relationship, one night stands, casual sex, hookups. But it comes at a cost. Krishna, that's why he wants us. If you contemplate on the sense object, the solution is not to contemplate. Instead of contemplating, contemplate on the supreme, absolute tools, wonderful, enchanting, soul-touching beauty of Radha Madhav. And that training we have to give ourselves under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master. Again, coming back to the solution, through the problem which I mentioned, the Krishna tells in the Gita, Kamat Krodho bhi jayate. You become angry, you become upset. So in these three cases, because of the Krodha, there was a breakup. There was a drop in the feelings and relationship, and it turned bitter. Because of Krodha bhavati sammoha. Because of that Krodha and anger, you're in illusion. What to be done, what not to be done. It doesn't hit you. It doesn't touch you. Your mind doesn't work. You're completely taken over by the emotions of that anger. Illusioned. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Next what happened? Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Your memory doesn't work. You forget what the other person has done to you. Of course, here in both the cases, both are culprits. Both, as I said, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. But somewhere down the line, based on who is lauding, who is subservient, they get it based on their package. Memory gets lost. When smriti vibhramahat buddhi nasha, your intelligence doesn't work. And you again fall into the material pole. You kill the other person, 35 pieces, chapak, acid. See, where are we heading? Marriages, live-in relationships. That's why the government is alarmed. And then the Uttarakhand government recently introduced UCC, Uniform Civil Code, where even the partners who stay together under live-in has to register. So that, and there's a big uproar, how the government can get into our personal lives, how they can get into your bedrooms, what is this? By what happens when someone, after that, if the relationship turns, and most of the relationship turn fake or turn pale and devastating, or you have 35 pieces, or you have acid, or you have abuse, one turns up the against, report rape cases, you promised me to marriage, but you didn't marriage, then it was promiscuous, it was mutually agreed. So what will happen to the child who is born of the couple? Who will take care of it? See how the whole, and when you have such sons or such children married out of wedlock, or there's no response, married because, or begotten purely based on lust, what will be the consciousness? What kind of generation will be born in the future? And that was Krishna. That's what Arjuna was worried in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It is really happening in this Kali Yuga. And when such men increase, only religion will be there, because they are born out of lust. They'll be indulging unlimited, uninterrupted sensual activities. Because the consciousness of the mother and the father at the time of copulation decides the consciousness of the child. That's why samskaras are important. In the Vedic tradition, we have Garbhadana samskaras, where with the blessings of the Vaishnavas, blessings of the elderly, in a proper way, in a proper consciousness, you meet to attract the best souls to into the womb of the mother, so that the child gets born, is not taken birth again. That's why the scripture says one should not become the father, one should not become the mother, one should not become the guru or a guardian or a king unless and until is able to liberate his dependence from the clutches of birth and death. That's a responsibility. Now, minus the responsibility, human being becomes animal. Animals don't have responsibilities. इसको raw रखते हैं ना, raw रखते हैं. कुत्ता है वो. And as long as we are on the kutta platform, you beget kuttas and you beget puppies like that, it becomes animalistic society. And in animalistic society, never expect peace, harmony. There will be fights and violence, just like in the animal society. And that's not the animal society. That's a pure animal. That's not the human society which we expect for. If for us to become human, we have to become sane. And to become sane, you have to do tapasya. Some austerity, some regulation has to be there. The first regulation, solution. Coming quickly to the solution. Solution is one should not contemplate. One remain celibate. That is the best one, easiest one, and possible if somebody has a proper guidance and training, it's possible. But very few people will be able to do it. But for the rest of the masses, instead of complete abstinence, there's an institution called marriage, where they get into that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Dharma aviruddho kamosmi. That sex which is not against dharma, which is not against dharma, which is meant for procreation, which is meant for procreating God-conscious children, that is me. So for men and women, this sacred institution of marriage binds each other to be faithful and sincere to one person, so that they don't disturb others. They don't disturb the social fabric of the society. There will not be extramarital, premarital, the commotion between the relationship. Hell, purely animalistic. So as long as we are on the animalistic platform, ahara, nidra, maituna, that's all, nothing else more than that. But human life is not meant only for this ahara, nidra, maituna. There are higher things. Dharma hi eko adhiko vishesho. That dharma is a special prerogative of human beings. As long as we are not on the platform of dharma, animals. So dharma is one of the aspects of dharma is marriage. But today, even that also is based on pure, no, you agree, I agree for this terminologies. And that's why I was just researching on this situationship. Then came across, if you're getting married, okay, let makes the clause very clear. What is the purpose? Where will I stay with the parents? Will I stay with my in-laws? Or what will happen to my property? Or whether the father will give me my property? Or will you move out with me to the other city? Will you work me with me in the same place? Or you are working? Who will take care of the finances of the children? Both are working. Both are not working. Who will take care of the children? All those complexities, they have to put it. That's what they're saying. Life has become so condition based just because of that. But still, if someone is sober and if is religious in the form of Krishna consciousness, if the people are of a same mentality, stay together. That's what Jataka is very important. Based on the Jataka, if they are selected, of course, in this Kali Yuga, even Jataka, those who are making it, may not make it properly. But if it is done properly, if there's some proper astrologer who can do it, the likings of each other are matched. Certain percentage, when there's a match. No, if I like cricket and she also likes cricket, it's easy to stay together. If she like dosa, I also like dosa or idli. It makes compatible. Example, a very crude way to explain to those who are watching. So it becomes easier to survive. But if there's no mismatch, or there are primarily three types of people, if you're from a higher perspective, Devagana, Asuragana, and Manushagana. So if Deva and Deva are together, then it's okay. If Deva and Manusha is together, fine. And Manusha are together, fine. And if there are Asura and Asura together, fine. But if there is Manusha and Asura and Deva, there will be always incompatibility. There will be always fights. I mean, these are there in the Vedic literatures, but unfortunately in Kali Yuga, this is an art form. So that's why this and tendency to vent out the lust can be restricted in the form of marriage, where you're restricted to one personality, and that too in a religious terminology for begetting a God-conscious children. That's why hence the wife or the husband acts like a fork for our spiritual progress, and material problems will be solved. So this is what I just want to come in. If I need two solutions for this, either you become a celibate and be faithful and serious in practice of Krishna consciousness and be blissful, or majority of them may not be possible, then hence get into marriage life in institution, and be faithful to one person, and the sacred code of marriage, conduct your life like a civilized gentleman and a gentlewoman for a higher causes, keeping Krishna in the center. If Krishna, if Dharma or religion is not in the center, then the whole institution collapse, and the whole what we are seeing today becomes purely animalistic. And in animalistic society, there are no rules, no regulation, no commitment, no marriages, no responsibility for taking care of the children, no goal in life. But human life is not meant for being animals. We get this human form of life after going through a tremendous cycle of birth and death, and after reaching 80 lakh species, you get the 4 lakh species as human life. That's a Durlabha Manusha Janma. In this rarest of Durlabha Manusha Janma, you should not waste your life for living life like cats and dogs. Atata Brahma Jignasa, after getting this human form of life, should inquire, who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Goal of life? Of course, even goal of life, that should be the goal of human form, whether in celibate life or in grahastha life. That's why those who are into married life and again living like animals with all the God grahame, this grahastha means Krishna is the center. And you are a brahmachari, you are a celibate, but you have a bachelor daddy. You are a bachelor daddy, not Krishna in the center. So again, that's it in newer senses. You don't want to be committed. You don't want to take the responsibility. You just want to be a playboy and go around. So both are extremes. But in either ashramas, if you can get Krishna in the center, then that works out. Of course, keeping Krishna also, the center will be Krishna. And if you both agree to work together, keeping Krishna in the center and to work for the pleasure of Krishna, then that is the real purpose of both the ashramas. Ashrama means where Krishna is the center. And that art, science and commerce of making things happen is taught by Swami Prabhupada. So in the West, when he was there, all his disciples were hippies. What we are seeing today in India was happening literally in front of his eyes on the streets of New York. Openly, the hippies, from the rich family, high-end family, but dogs having sex in the streets, openly abusing each other, drugging, LSD, nudity. Prabhupada, when he chanted the holy names of the Lord, they got attracted. Their unwanted nature, unwanted habits were easily removed from the core of their heart. They become wonderful Vaishnavas. And their disciples, both men and women, were staying together, living together. Just like today's Indian men and women, youngsters staying together, they were also staying together. But Prabhupada said, I'll accept you only when I get you married. Prabhupada was the first sannyasi going to the West, getting their disciples, before becoming disciples, getting them married, and then giving initiation. So Prabhupada transformed their lives. The same way, if we keep Krishna in the center and serve Krishna under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, become dharmic, religious, then our life will be settled. Otherwise, no way we can control our urges, because that's how on the bodily concept we are made. As long as we are absorbed in the bodily concept and want to gratify, there is no end. This regulation and that regulation will not work. Only the regulation of the spiritual master and his mercy, because we are all pleasure seekers, happiness seekers, and we are searching for that pleasure and happiness in a wrong platform, in a horrible platform, getting derailed again and again. And this great personality sent by Krishna to help us out has come and given us this wonderful platform of Krishna consciousness, both for the celibates and both for the grahasthas. So, keeping Krishna in the center, and that enjoyment with Krishna, keeping Krishna is as a center, has no limit. You don't have to scratch each other's back, but we work together to please Krishna. In that way, we get benefited, because we are made like that. We are anshas of the Lord. Mama ivamsho Jiva Loka, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Our design is like that. Our manufacture is like that. Our make is like that. Only and only when we act on that platform of Krishna consciousness, men and women in this world will be truly happy and enjoy real, unlimited, uninterrupted, everlasting pleasure, which you are looking in a long place. So with this, I stop. Thank you so much. Hope to get you out of situationship and get into the situationship of pleasing Guru and Krishna. And that's the eternal life for us. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.